Today, I would like to introduce you to a concept known, and it is very important in traditional Chinese music theory as well as in Chinese music history. But it is not paying attention to musicology today, whether in China or outside of China. So the term for this concept is Huangzhong. This word is generally translated as a yellow bell, but the concept refers neither to the color yellow nor necessarily to a bear. There are many Asian Chinese words that are not directly translatable as just Dao and Yin and Yang. Therefore, I would first like to explain the terminological ranges of the term so that we are not mistaken by simple and intuitive imaginations of the yellow bear. And first, I would like to talk about the origin of the word yellow bear from a terminological point of view. The earliest reference to the character for bear can be found in the late period of Shang dynasty. This dynasty lasted from the 70th to the 11th century BCE. The first forms of the character for bear were written on bronze objects. They were used in rituals. There are different variants of the bear character Zhong. The character always made of 4 parts, which also can be read as single words. This character is called Jing. It means myrtle. It shows myrtle ore in the ground. And the second sign is an important symbol. It means something like power of the king and rule. One can also find it in the character Shang. So here, Shang, which was the name of the ruling dynasty of the Shang period. It is also written over the character Di, which means the highest ruler or god. This symbol is also included in the characters for the dragon and phoenix. This symbol is also found in the word yan. It means language and speech. It refers to the language code of the ruling class or its holding words. And we also find the symbol in the sign of yin in music. It refers to ritual performed by the upper class. The second element in the third element in the burn character show a large eye and a body. It means looking or watching. The fourth part of the symbol is spoken as Dong today. So let me summarize this. The character Zhong bear is an object made of metal that means power and order. Only the people with knowledge would make a bronze bear. Let's have to look at the first character in the word yellow bear. Yellow. So it is spoken as Huang. It means yellow, and we find it mostly on oracle bones. It shows the image of the person with jade jewelry. a noble person. You can see here figures of two noble women wearing jade. The word yellow also means earth in the traditional 5 elements. So I skip a few slides. Very interesting. A very interesting discovery was the tomb of a priest. It is already 3,800 years old. Above the body of the priest was a wooden tablet. On it was a dragon figure, which was made of more than 2,300 pieces of turquoise. In the center of the dragon was a bronze bear. The dragon shield was tied to the priest's arm when he was doing a ritual, and he held the bronze bear in his another hand and playing it when he danced. I think, however, that this dragon figure shows the Asian star constellation called the dragon, which rises in the eastern sky in spring, exactly on the day of the beginning of spring. The horns of the dragon rise from the horizon. It is a sign of the beginning of spring and very important for agriculture. On this day, rituals were performed. In the oldest songbook of the Chinese, in the Shi Jing, it is written, "The dragon flies and the bear rings." I have put the dragon image on the star map. You can see that they overlap. The bear is exactly where the star of the dragon's heart is. So single bears or sets of bears were found in tubes from the Bronze Age. Type and style and the inscriptions show the rank of the person. So let us now listen to a piece of Chinese music played Asian bears. So, so we are. Ah, nee, das ist nicht die. Das ist die andere. Bei dies geht jetzt wieder. Normal. Jetzt geht's wieder. So.
It's working.
Wait. So the yellow bell is also a term in Chinese music theory. It is a turning tone of the tonal system from which all other tones originate. And you may know with the old Greek legend of Pythagoras, who discovered the mathematical laws of intervals while listening to the harmonious sounds. This is a similar legend in China. The Yellow Empire orders his music master Ling Lun to go to the west in search of true music. Ling Lun found a perfect piece of bamboo in the forest of Mount Kunlun. He blew into this bamboo and it made a pleasant sound. Ling Lun calls it yellow bell. Based on this length, he got a 12 sound series. So we see here 12 bamboo pipes. They were found in Ma Wangdui and are about 2,200 years old. The longest pipe had the two characters Huangzhong, a yellow bear, on it. So two important questions are: how is the absolute length of a yellow bear pipe determined? How can the length of the yellow bear pipe be calculated so that the 30th step is exactly on pure octave? The earliest discussion of this in the book Huangzhong, Guanzi, relates on the yellow bear pipe to the number 18-1 without giving a motion unit. The book also talks of the verses, the law of aiding or taking away a third. In short, based on the legs of the yellow bear, 1/3 of the legs must always be taken away or aided to get the rest of the tones. It is in fact spiral for fifths. In the 18th century, the Jesuit who had studied Chinese music theory calls it this method the progression triple. This method was used to thousands of years. It has one imperfection, the inability to produce a pure octave. Here you can see an image and a table to explain this method. The number 3 plays a very important role here. The number 3 represents the basis for all the chains in the world. The ancient book Dao De Jing says that the Dao gives rise to the 1 to the number 2, the number 2 to the number 3, and from the 3 all things emerge. The ancient Chinese believed that all things are built on the principle of the number 3. But how is the number 18-1 related to the yellow bear? The ancient Chinese used millet grain as the basic unit to arranging millet pieces of the particular similar signs in rows. It's shown in the 1606 book on music theory by Zhu Zaiyu. 1 pieces of minute, determining the length of the yellow bear pie. From this, Zhu Zaiyu obtained a length of 25.6 centimeter from the measures of the yellow bear. But like the even turning page of European music history, the yellow bells of the Chinese history have also been changed. Here we see the changes of the linear measures of the yellow bear turns from a period of 144 years in Song dynasty. Then a new dynasty began. The linear method of the yellow bear was changed. So why has the length of the yellow bear be related to politics? The yellow bear is not only source of as a tuning device, it is also the basic unit of length. The yellow bear ruler is just like the prime meter for Earth. So we see here a measuring device from 9 AD. It is made of bronze and it is divided into 3 parts. It is used to measure the volume throughout the country. The yellow bear pipe determined the economics of the whole country. It became the prime concert of every dynasty. So this is also a very complex connection that appears in the relationship between the yellow bear number 181 and the calendar. I will not go into details about this today, but finally, I would like to give another brief introduction to the use of the yellow bear in ritual music. Music, calendars, and politics were closely related. The music and time were carefully chosen for the rituals. The right music could be played at the right time, and the right rituals were to be performed in order to make of prayers effective. Each month belonged to the particular musical scale. The yellow bear relates in some dynasties to the month of the winter solstice, the 11th month of the lunar calendar. In some dynasties, it belongs to the first month to spring in the lunar calendar. At this time, the music is played in a scale in which the yellow bear becomes the dominant tone. So, however, this tradition of music rituals was given up at the end of the Qing dynasty in the early 20th century. So now scholars want to revive this tradition, and I set up a student group at the Zhuhai campus of Beijing Normal University to try to perform traditional ritual music. We are using a 17th century score that I have arranged, and I hope to give young people a taste of traditional music culture. And I would like to show you a music video that we have recorded last year, and it is from 1606, and the lyrics are from the Book of Songs from about 3,000 years ago.
关关雎鸠，在河之洲。窈窕淑女，君子好逑。参差荇菜，左右流之。窈窕淑女，寤寐求之。
Man hört gar nichts. Ja, man hört.
So, hat man was gehört überhaupt?
Ja, man hat gehört, es bewegte sich nichts, also, aber man hörte.
Okay, weil es bei mir normal, aber scheint jetzt
So it's
gar
fine
nicht
here, but I
mehr.
guess the connection is not good from China to Zoom. It's always a little problematic if you have
Ja,
much
das
data.
geht gar nicht gerade. So, okay, gut, aber ich bin ja auch fertig. Noch mal probieren. Mal gucken jetzt.
悠悠鹿鸣，食野之苹。我有嘉宾，鼓瑟。
Nein, das geht nicht. Okay, da aber ich bin fertig jetzt. Okay, thank you all for the listening. I'm finished.
吹笙。
Geht nicht anders. Nee, bewegt gar nicht mehr. Nein.
So, ist das jetzt zu Ende?
Ja, ist zu Ende.
Okay, good. So
Geht nicht.
thank you very much. We have to stay together because now we have the second colloquium, and after this we return with question and commentaries. Thank you very much, Bei. It is still wonderful to be in real life connection. It's better to see fantastic films in fantastic techniques. So I like also these problems because they are real, in real time. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah.
Ioannis, please, you have the floor, Ioannis.
Unmute yourself, Yanni, unmute yourself.
We do not hear you, Ioannis.
Okay, yes, I know. Sorry. Thanks very much, Bay, once more. Any questions will be at the end. And now we are going to hear the next lecture by our colleague and member of the Academy, Professor Jocip Faričić, on old maps and charts between science and art. I would like to say a few words. Who is Jocip Faričić? He's a full professor of Department of Geography at the University of Zadar in Croatia and vice rector of the University of Zadar. His research interests include landscape geography, religion and historical geography maps, geography generally, cartography and geoinformation. Amongst his developed projects are the renderings of the Adriatic Sea coastline on early modern age nautical charts in the context of the navigational applicability, also on automated coastline extraction using the very high resolution world view satellite imagery, projects related to human footprints in the karst landscapes and the influence of lime production on the landscape of the northern Dalmatian islands in Croatia, and also symbolism of the ritual and suburban landscape of the Holy Land in the New Testament. He has been awarded several distinctions, amongst them the Rector's Award at the University of Zadar, the Golden and Silver Awards of Matica Hrvatska, the oldest Croatian cultural institution, for his books, and also an annual award of the municipality of Zemunik in 2018. Dear Jocip, the digital floor is yours.
Thank you, Ioannis, for this presentation, and hello to everybody. I will try to share with you my screen. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. It is my honor to present part of my work related to old maps and charts. And I choose several maps and charts made in Europe during the Middle Age and early modern period to show how old maps and charts are achievements which were related in the same time to science and arts. For some kind of starting, I must define what is map. Of course, there are many definitions of a map. Almost every scientist has his own definition. And probably we all imagine what map is, but International Cartographic Association claim that map is a symbolized representation of geographical reality, representing selected features or characteristics resulting from the creative effort of its author's execution of choices, and is designed for use when spatial relations are of primary relevance. And according to such a definition of a map, International Cartographic Association define cartography as a discipline dealing with the art, science, and technology of making and using maps. Of course, I bolded some words in this definition. Symbolized representation.
Could you please increase the size by pushing the button on the? We only see the first slide still. Can you enlarge it a little bit?
Oh, I suppose that you see my presentation, because I will try another.
Now it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
What is
now
map?
you see my screen. Is
Yes.
it okay? Okay. Now you see my presentation.
Yes. Now this is what is map. This is the slide.
And a slide with what is map?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. Well, I bolded some words or phrases: symbolized representation, geographic reality, creative effort, and spatial relationship. Those phrases are really very important in understanding of the nature of the map. Do you see another slide, please?
No.
Map functions.
Still in what is map?
I don't know why it happened. I will try to. Have you seen now?
Yes.
Map functions.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
thank you. Some problems. Okay. Each map has amount of functions, and we may consider that map as some kind of representation of geographical space or areas, is in the same time source of knowledge about space and medium of communication. And we may consider this communication as communication about space and communication in space. For example, when I said communication in space, I think in mind, for example, chart as navigational tool, because without such medium of communication, such communication is not possible. The famous historian of cartography, Brian Hurley, claimed that maps are part of visual language by which specific interests, doctrines, and even worldviews were communicated. Well, in such relation, we must explain what is geographical reality. Geographical reality, of course, includes in the first place the physical appearance of geographical objects that have their own geographical location and their linear or aerial dimensions. For example, relief, some mountain, some plain, seas, lakes, rivers, vegetation, settlements, roads, and of course their geographical names. This is some kind of skeleton of geographical reality, but important part of geographical reality is human being and of course human actions. And human actions in the physical space encompasses firstly thinking about space, and that thinking results with making judgments, assessments, and of course intentions about spatial objects, processes, and interactions. And those thinking result with concrete social and economic activities which direct impact on the environment and of course on the landscape. But we may consider as part of geographical reality also perception of man about physical appearance of geographical objects. And this perception of geographical reality is influenced by degree of geographical knowledge. And of course, it depends on perspective from which the space is perceived. Whether it is a sectoral perspective, for example, mariners looked only in sea and coastal zone, and men who are active in agriculture focused on arable land, woods, and so on. And of course, a point of view which is culturally and politically conditioned. For example, the same area may be viewed differently from some political core or capital city of some state, and in different way and in a different eye, the same area may be viewed by inhabitants of some periphery or the same state. Of course, mental mapping of space is often based on imagination and including prejudices, aspirations, myths, and religious motives. And this imagination may be related directly with a physical space. But of course, this imagination may be related only with myths or some supernatural features or beliefs. When we consider geographic reality, we may ask, does each map represent of geographic reality? And we may answer with different answers. Answer yes, if it is a result of scientifically based survey or systematic scientific research of the depicted area related to the present time. Perhaps yes, if it is based on scientific research of the past with an attempt to reconstruct some state or process in some historical period. But of course, there is no total history. There is no total reconstruction of past, because this is not possible because of lack of evidences, because of lack of written or material sources with relevant data. Perhaps yes, if it relates to scientifically based strategic or spatial planning of the depicted area. But of course, the future carries various uncertainties. Some scientists maybe include in preparing or map making of some spatial plan or regional plan for development of some region. But of course, this development depends on different processes, demography, politics, economy, from local to global scope. For example, nowadays crisis result by pandemia or by very sad war in Ukraine, obviously influenced in national economy, and because of that we are not sure what will happen tomorrow and of course in next months and years. Well, answer no for question, does each map represent a geographic reality, is answer if the goal is not to show geographic reality at all, but speciality refers to world of myths, legend, or some other product of imagination. And of course, reality of mapping and depicting geographic reality and depicting of world of imagination is more complex, and we may offer many other answers on such question. What do old maps mirror? When I said old maps, I think about maps before systematically based maps as a result of survey. And in centuries, when author had a strong touch on a final result, final outcome of mapping, of course, arts and science were in some kind of marriage, in some kind of very strong relation. Old maps were not only attempts, of course, of varying sex to represent real space, or they are not indicators of the degree of geographical knowledge of the depicted space. Many maps were reflections of perception of space within some model, climatic, religious, political model, and including mixing the real and imaginary images of space. And of course, maps were reflections of intention of author or the client who ordered mapping, geographically represent to desired and not the actual state of space. For example, for need of expression of political aspiration or political view of a concrete space. And I will show you a few old maps in which you may consider such traveling during the history of maps related to arts and science. When we see that so-called TO world map made by Bishop Isidore of Seville in 7th century, this map is printed in 15th century, but origin of map is from 7th century. This map show only spatial conception of the known continents. This is not attempt to show geographic reality. And this world is divided to Noah's sons. Sem got Asia, Ham got Africa, and Japheth got Europe. And we may ask them ourselves if old people knew in that time that there are many other continents. In such case, in Old Testament, probably Noah had more sons than 3 sons. This is relation to contemporary knowledge and reflection of conceptualization of the world, not of depicting of real world. Well, very early, cartographers try to gather interest of wide community, and they try to show their knowledge, but they use ornamentation, decoration on their maps. For example, this world map made by Spanish monk Beatus, originally in the end of 8th century, show Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden in upper part of the map, which shown east as the main direction in that time system of orientation. During the Renaissance or early modern period, cartographers tried to fill empty space because of so-called horror vacui, which is related to fine arts for avoiding emptiness. And cartographers used to use different figures, pictures of mythological creatures or strange creatures in space which is not well known to them, or which is empty because this is area of sea and area of some less known parts of the New World. And because of that, they fill maps with very strange elements, and they use those elements as decoration for getting some kind of harmony, for getting some kind of aesthetics on the map. Well, mapping was a process of creating graphical spatial representation. And this process employed painting techniques and patterns whose main purpose was to express ideas, including feelings about real or supernatural phenomena. And they used two-dimensional visual language as a means of communication. And the most important elements of this visual language include lines, different shapes, of course, colors, shades, compositions, and textures. And cartographers use those elements as cartographical signs, which was tools of coding of geographical reality for putting those codes to those signs on the map. Of course, interpreter or user of the map must be in possibility to interpret, to decode such content on the maps. Cartographers during the history have been navigating between science and arts for centuries, which reflected to a certain degree in dualism of art and science in cartography. Of course, regardless to the fact that maps including charts, content was designed often with a primarily utilitarian purpose, with clear function, with clear application in economy, in everyday life, great attention was paid to aesthetics or cartographic representation. Why aesthetics? Different aims are related to aesthetics of map. Firstly, achieving harmony in graphical representation, achieving harmony in design, of course, and embellishing map with various decorative elements. In Europe, during the Middle Age and early modern period, ornamentation was marked mostly by Christian iconography. But very interesting, in the same time, many maps have ancient Greek and Roman mythological elements. Authors suggested different messages and presented different perspectives on this depicted space. And this is why maps and charts are rich in symbolism. This is some kind of rich box of symbols, some kind of flourish plane with many floors as many aspects of symbolism on the map. And so when maps and charts are interpreted, it is important not only to determine what's shown on a chart and where, but also how and why certain content has been presented. For example, this so-called Psalter map from Westminster from the middle of 13th century show a known world divided in 3 continents, and above world is Jesus Christ in the iconographic position of Pantocrator. This is a Greek origin term for Almighty God. And Jerusalem is in the middle of known world. Jerusalem as symbol of center of the world, not physical center, but theological center, because of importance of Jerusalem in Old Testament and especially in New Testament. This map is very interesting. This map as a whole had artistic value as altarpiece in Hereford Cathedral in England. And in this map, there are many elements of Greek and Roman mythology. For example, in depiction of Crete, there are a representation of a Minotaur's labyrinth. And this is a mixture of Christianity and Greek and, of course, ancient mythology as the whole. This map represents Adriatic Sea. Adriatic Sea was very important during the Middle Age and early modern period as some kind of connector between Europe and Eastern Asia and North Africa, especially because of importance of Venice as one of the mightiest point in Europe during the Middle Age and early modern period. And it is very interesting map with representation of Adriatic coast, with many geographical names related to islands and coast, but with lack of knowledge about Adriatic hinterland. And author in France, because this map made in France in the mid of 16th century, figure drawn African and Asian animals, elephants, camels, and so. And this is very strange. This is point of view of East as exotic, or probably presence of Ottoman Empire, which is related to East for Western Europeans. And because of that, unknown author drawn African and Asian animals in near hinterland of Eastern Adriatic as part of some imagination of such space. The same region, Adriatic Sea and surrounding regions, were depicted on many navigation charts. This chart is very interesting. This is chart made by a Greek author who lived and worked in Venice, Antonio Millo, and he fulfilled empty space in hinterland with picture with flags which shown are very complex political situation on Eastern Adriatic. And also he drawn compass roses, which are not only element of orientation, but element of decoration. This trying of fulfill of emptying space in the manner of horror vacui from fine arts are also the custom on maps made by many European cartographers. This is example of a map of Cornwall made by famous English cartographer Christopher Sexton, with very good representation of Cornwall for that time, of course, time of Queen Elizabeth I. But you may see that empty space is fulfilled with huge decoration, with cartouches, with coat of arms, not only coat of arms of royal family, above with dragon and lion, but even coat of arms of some other important persons. And of course, there are many other elements, sea monsters, navigational tools, and other things who are gathering to represent not only the geographical reality, but including imagination about reality and related to myth. This map as whole is a very good example of this connection between arts and science. Scientifically based representation of so-called Belgic lion, Leo belgicus in Latin, which means Low Countries composed by nowadays states, Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. Geographic reality is depicted very correct, but you may notice prevalence of artistic point of view. The whole area is in the shape of lion, and many other elements and drawings of sailing vessels on different sea creatures, and including Christian iconography with crosses and with representation of justice and glory. This is one of the map of the world, which is a representation of the world viewed in the first half of 17th century, but surrounding with pictures, with drawings, with showing of antiquity of huge and rich world of mythology during the ancient times. This map is a representation of Adriatic in Baroque style, with very rich ornamentation, with red of Adriatic seas from eastern and western part of Adriatic, with representation of a winged lion as symbol of Republic of Venice, who consider herself as the dominant power above Adriatic, and because of that they show also the name for whole Adriatic as Golfo di Venezia. That means Venetian Gulf. Olim, that means former Adriaticum Sea. In the 18th century, the process of making topographic and various thematic maps was institutionalization. it was based on surveys and other scientific activities, and the map field was filled, this is some kind of game of words, with standardized cartographic signs, and ornamentation gradually disappeared. However, artistic touch remains even today, because the map as a graphic representation is based on aesthetics related to appropriate choice of shapes and colors and the balance and harmony of such representation as a whole. And cartographers take solutions from fine arts in an attempt to achieve plasticity in mapping three-dimensional geographical content, especially relief, for example, mountains, hills, into 2 dimensions. You may see example of such map. This is map made by famous British or English astronomer Edmund Halley. Upon him, Halley Comet was known, and he organized measurement of magnetic variation on Atlantic Ocean, and he prepared map with strong scientific content of this map, but with decorations in the middle of the shown continents, because this is implementation of technique color vacui, and he used plain or empty space for information inside of cartouches with depiction of astronomy, of idea of some continents as exotic space with exotic trees and inhabitants and so on. Well, this is sheet of the Carte Géométrique de la France. France organized first systematically survey of the whole European state. And this map is a result of science. This map is a result of era of enlightenment. But this map is without ornamentation, but authors of this map used techniques of fine art to in attempt to show three-dimensional relief in 2 dimensions. And for the end, I will show to you the use of historical cartographical techniques and methods in map design in modern and contemporary, not science, but literature. This is famous Tolkien's map of Middle-earth. This is Middle-earth is space of action in the Lord of the Rings. And we may notice some technique from late Middle Age and early modern map mapping. But this map is a very interesting example of mixture between geographical reality and a world of imagination, in which we may recognize elements of some kind of perception of geographic reality in positioning of evil and positioning of good. Good is related to the Shire and other Middle-earth regions, and their position on the west. And evil, Mordor, is positioned in the east. This is sometimes as some kind of stereotype, but this is stereotype based on realistic political relations during the history, especially, of course, even in time of writing of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And the last map, which is used in George Martin's Game of the Thrones. Also, technique of old maps, and also map as result of arts, map as result of literature, imagination, but based on real geographical layer. When we see a world Westeros or 7 kingdoms, we may recognize in general shape of Great Britain the wall in the north, which divided 7 kingdoms, civilization from while the north is some kind of reflection of Hadrian's wall, which divided Roman colony Britannia from barbarian, of course, from Roman point of view, barbarian north. Even east is exotic space, and those new or modern and contemporary maps reflects some kind of mixture between not really science, but between arts and consideration and imagination of real space. And real space and geographic reality is used for some kind of pattern, for some kind of motif, for the fine arts and for imagination and in literature. And with this map, I will finish my short presentation.
Unmute
please.
yourself, Ioannis, unmute. And please do see that Peter Hermann. Thank you so much, Jocip. Peter Hermann have questions immediately. He wrote in chat.
Okay.
Yes, it's actually a question to both presentations. You mentioned the last presentation, you mentioned the decorative dimension. Earlier mentioned maps are a matter of meaning, of people living in space. And this is the point I want to know a little bit more from both of you. The meaning of the different dimensions. I go actually back to another continent that is not present in the presentations today, Latin America, where we speak of Mother Earth. And this is a general thing, Mother Earth. What is the meaning of rivers in different traditions, in different understandings? The understanding of heaven, the understanding of mountains. So this is, I think, something that is reflected in maps, of course, but as well in listening then to music, where we have different dimensions of references. And
what is the question? Repeat the question. What is the question?
Yeah, just a comment on these from the experts, basically, a comment on these thoughts. What is the meaning when it comes to maps, when it comes to music?
Well, thank you for your question. Of course, those meanings of some elements of space, for example, soil, for example, water. Water is very important. On many maps, rivers are shown much bigger, much strength than in the real life, because of importance of water in life, not only in meaning of drinking water, which is needed for agriculture, but importance of water as media of purification. And this is example of meanings of some geographical feature in real life, to meaning of water in religion systems, in mythology, and of course, maps are media to show these meanings to different users. This is only one example, and of course, there are many such examples during the history and on many different maps during the history.
Would you like to say something, Peng?
Yes,
Du kannst auch Deutsch sagen.
can I speak German? And,
I will try to translate for her because I mean her German is better than mine, but her English is not very much in use over here. So,
also habe ich die Frage richtig verstanden? Sie meinte die Dimensionen hinter der Musik oder
die Referenzen, ne?
Die Kraft der Symbole, die Kraft der Symbole. Also übrigens, ich hatte auch Fragen für euch von zwei Musikern, Fragen für dich von zwei Musikern, die wollten wissen, was diese Zeichen eigentlich musikalisch ausdrücken könnten. Jetzt einerseits auf der Map und was die Zeichen, also die Übersetzung in Klang von dem Zeichen.
Also meinst du dieser Hongzhong, dieser Klang, dieser Yellow?
Peter, kannst du noch mal fragen auf Deutsch? Peter?
Ja,
falls ich was falsch gesagt habe.
Nee, es ist schon richtig. Also die Repräsentation im Grunde, der Bezug, der in der Musik auf verschiedene Ebenen gemacht wird. Also zum Beispiel okay. Himmel, dann aber auch die Bedeutung von Bergen, also als Rückzugsgebiet und so weiter und so fort.
Also ja, das ist natürlich ein Riesenthema, weil die chinesische Musik ist nie alleine nur ein Spaß, es ist nicht nur zum Genießen, es ist nicht nur eine Kunst in unserer heutigen Sinne. Also die Musik ist, die chinesische Musik besonders ist in ein holistisches System eingebunden. Das heißt, wir haben die Sternenhimmel, wir haben die Menschenkörper, also die verschiedenen Teile von Menschen, und wir haben die Elementen und wir haben eigentlich die Landschaft, und wir haben Farben, wir haben Geschmack, wir haben Ethik oder gesellschaftlicher Zusammenhang der Menschen, und Musik, alles hängt zusammen auf Basis von diesen 5 Elementen, Yin-Yang-System oder auch I Ching oder auch Bagua, hängt alles in ein mathematisches System zusammen. Also nichts ist allein außerhalb von dem System. Von daher ist die Frage sehr schwer mit einfacher Sätze zu antworten. Also die Musik ist eigentlich alles, und ist einfach gesagt, alles ist Musik. Vielleicht.
Ja, but David, would you like to answer, to translate, or should I?
Maybe, I mean, just I'm paraphrasing, okay?
Okay.
So Peng Bei said it's a really interesting question, but it is also a huge topic. And the question of reference of these ancient aspects of the traditional Chinese music, they lead us away from the everyday, from the modern or everyday understanding of music just for joy and for enjoying sound or whatever.
Entertainment.
And so forth, and also from maybe the aesthetic understanding even of the, that's what I'm adding here, of the 18th century or 19th century understandings, and it's leading us back to a very archaic worldview where we face but very sophisticated worldview at the same time, where we face a holistic system where the movements of the celestial bodies, the night sky, the human bodies, the elements, colors, taste, ethics, social constellations, where everything is interwoven and everything has its place, and everything is at the same time represented in that music theory in mathematical terms. So to paraphrase what she said, and I remember that you also held a very interesting presentation about the relation, for example, of the body. She just gave a presentation in January, also online, on another occasion, about the relationship of the mathematics of the celestial bodies and the relations to the acupuncture points in the Chinese medicine. And I think maybe that's a good answer. So the relation of the cosmos or the cosmic life expressed in music, right? And you said everything is what you said. You said music is everything, and everything is music. So it's music is actually also the mathematical representation of music is
may I?
Violeta, Klaus Meiser would like to ask a question.
Please, I just want to tell something very shortly about this, what they said. It's at the same time science, the music, Chinese music, at the same time is science and music in the sense of aesthetic. I would just suggest the correspondence between what you say, Peng, and the old Schicht of the traditional music in the traditional cultures in general, because they don't make music just for entertainment, as you also mentioned. They do it for necessity. This is a necessity, and this is from the exact existential point of view is the necessity. It's a big difference between entertainment and music, which goes to the essence.
Which, yes, part of the culture and the religion, the rituals, etc. Yes. The President, Klaus Meiser.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peng, for your very interesting and fascinating talk. I have a short comment and a short question. The short comment concerns the search for Urton. I thought that is very fascinating because it seems to be the trial of the old Chinese to find something like a unit of tones. And you know, in modern physics, only in modern times, the physicists try to find units, for example, for length and for weights and things like that, the so-called Urmeter in Paris, and for weights, kilogram, and things like that. That was only a comment, and it's interesting that the Chinese started very early with these ideas. The second is a short question, but you already explained a little bit in your last answer, namely in the Greek tradition, the Pythagoreans and the Platonic mathematicians had the idea of a theory of proportionality, and that means that mathematical proportions in geometry or in arithmetics can also be expressed in music. That was the idea. And even in cosmology, because astronomy was a part of the exact sciences. So my question is there also this kind of cosmological perspective? That means in the Greek tradition, there's a proportion between the planetary spheres, and which can also be expressed by proportions of tones. So that leads to the idea in the Western tradition of spheric harmony in music, inspired by cosmology. Is there a similar idea in the Chinese tradition?
Okay, antworte ich wieder auf Deutsch. Eine ganz interessante Frage, auch genau die Frage, was ich schon in meiner Doktorarbeit geforscht habe. Wie Sie sagen, es gibt auch sehr ähnliche Ideen in alten China, dass die Musiktöne exakte Himmelskörper entspricht. Diese Entsprechung ist vom Anfang an da. Zum Beispiel, wir haben die 5 Töne in der Pentatonik. Da sind die 5 Planeten, auch mit den Namen, auch mit der Beziehung immer zusammen verbunden. Und was auch sehr, sehr interessant ist in meiner Forschung über Zhu Zaiyu, das ist ein Musiktheoretiker und Astronom im 17. Jahrhundert, und er hat ein viel besserer und auch komplexer System aufgebaut, nämlich ein 12er-System, also was dann unbewegte Himmelsbild, erstmal unbewegt 12 Himmelsrichtung zeichnet und auch dann die 5 Töne, die immer ständig in diesen festen Schal dreht. Das heißt, wir haben eine feste, unbewegliche Himmel und ein bewegliches Planetensystem. Und damit möchte er aber was ganz Praktisches machen, nämlich wir müssen jeden Monat rituale Musik spielen. Und die Musik muss immer exakt die Himmelskörper entsprechen. Und wenn wir jetzt im Januar sind zum Beispiel, dann müssen wir genau die Töne und diese Tonskala spielen, was auf seiner unbeweglichen Schall und diese beweglichen Töne zusammenbildet. Also es gibt für jeden Monat eine perfekte Skala. Und damit ist eigentlich gemeint, dass wir unter den Himmel genau uns bewegen, uns verhalten sollen wie die Himmelskörper im Himmel, also so die Ordnung, die himmlische Ordnung im Menschenwelt.
Yeah, fascinating, because in modern times, even Johannes Kepler,
Ja, genau.
he was
Das war mein
inspired
Thema.
exactly by these ideas.
Ja.
And that was the old Greek tradition, but also on the other side, the beginning of modern science, because he was a great mathematician of the planetary system, of the heliocentric system in modern time. Fascinating.
Genau, das ist auch mein Thema, das würde ich weiter forschen.
Violeta?
I would say no translation, but we have Tassos. Tassos would like to ask something. Adalbert Grote also. So Tassos, please.
Yes.
He was the first one. Thank you.
I have a question for Peng, and maybe that will improve my German further now. My question is what is the relation between Chinese and Japanese music? What did the Japanese draw from and inherit and develop from their ancestors, from the Chinese?
Oh, das habe ich noch nicht so sehr geforscht. Ich weiß nur, dass in den japanischen Hof auch Hofmusik spielen. Das ist eine Beziehung zwischen japanischer Hofmusik und chinesischer Hofmusik. Und wir haben auch sehr viele ähnliche Instrumente von Seidenstraße, zum Beispiel die Pipa aus Westen. Und auch sehr viele Instrumente haben die Japaner von China dann nach Japan gebracht im 8. bis 9. Jahrhundert. Und auch es gibt auch sehr interessante rituale Musik mit Maske. Und das ist auch in China ähnliche Form zu finden. Aber man weiß nicht so ganz genau, wie die zusammenhängen. Aber es ist insgesamt eine ähnliche Kultur. Wir haben alle Daoismus, also wir haben alle Konfuzianismus, ist sehr ähnlich. Und auch daoistische Natur, philosophischer Zusammenhang auch sind sehr viel Ähnlichkeit, aber ich weiß nicht sehr genau über die Details, weil ich das noch nicht geforscht habe.
Maybe I have an association because I visited her home province once. She's from southwest China, and there is a form of theater, and it's called Nuo theater. And I remember that at the time when we were watching his performance, someone told me that there are also Japanese researchers who come to Guizhou province, to her home province, to do research on that particular form of theater because they think there's some relation to the No theater in Japan, you know, with the masks and it's very deep, archaic spiritual meaning. So yeah, maybe there's a connection, but I didn't do research on that. It's just an association that came to my mind when I was listening.
Thank you. And Grote, Adalbert Grote, thank you very much. Adalbert.
Unmute, please.
Here.
Unmute.
Unmute. We do not hear you. Adalbert, you have to.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello. You can hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for the both lectures, which I found very, very interesting, and especially also the different kind of maps Professor Faričić introduced to us. And I would like to give a certain kind of supplement to it, because in Germany we have the very famous map of Ebsdorf, which is situated, which is from the 14th century, and which centers in the middle the celestial Jerusalem, and is surrounding from churches and from wild animals and palaces and houses. So the map tells us that there is have in common, that the map has in common a theological sphere and also a geographical sphere, because the landscapes and the sceneries all over Europe and Asia are situated very, very near or very far from this center of the world, the celestial Jerusalem. And this is an expression of Christian belief and Christian interest to combine the geographical means with the theological thoughts at this time.
What is the question, Mr. Brother? The question.
There's no
question.
Yes, that's only a supplement.
Supplement.
Came to mind.
Time is, we're running out of time. Please, if you would like to ask questions, not comments. If you want any comment or more details, you can write an email, to the speaker, and you can get, a communication. But now, questions, please. Thank you. Yes, Livia.
May I?
Yes, sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, map of Ebsdorf is well-known map. Unfortunately, original of this map is destroyed during the Second World War, but fortunately, this map have many facsimiles. And this is reality of Middle Age, mixture between terrestrial and celestial, or living in the earth is preparing for living in the if a person is good in the paradise, and paradise is gathering and surrounding celestial Jerusalem of Zion. And on the many Middle Age maps, Jerusalem is in the center, and even in maps which were very precise for that time, of course, in depiction of geographical features, mountains, rivers, settlements, and so on. Of course, during the Middle Age, there are a huge problem with geographical location of geographical feature because of lack of knowledge about geographical position, especially about longitude. Latitude was easy to determine because of level of astronomy, but precise determination of longitude was connected with invention of a chronometer in 18th century. But in the Middle Age, we have a very, very strong spiritual touch to the reality, and because of that we have such mixture between geographical feature, physical reality, and this spiritual reality, because I consider reality as complex, which is consist from physical and spiritual part, because in Middle Age, especially in the early modern period, one person is in the same time material and spiritual beings, not only rational material beings. And because of that, maps reflects such situation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Livia.
Hello. I would like to ask a question to Professor Faričić. How do you relate the old art of mapping with its decorations with the digital representations of galaxies, black holes, or cosmic microwaves background from today? I mean, is it an inherent need to embellish the representation of space? Because all these cosmic representations, the digital representations, are colored in various forms, and of course they are accurate as reality, but they are embellished in many ways. What do you think? It is an inherent need to embellish the representation of space.
Okay, well, of course, contemporary cartography is also based on some fine arts artistics and techniques, and in the nature of human being is some kind of need for imagination, need for animation, need to be in position to touch something or to see something. And because of that, cartographers use some techniques to represent or even some so far elements, galaxies, planets, stars, and so. And they used, for example, colors, which represent some kind of magnitude or some kind of intensity of radiation, intensity of physical power of such celestial bodies. And we called such a presentation as a pseudo colorization. For example, even when we use infrared sensors, and we look some picture which is took by infrared camera, we see, for example, a photo or map with different color, but those colors represent something that it is not possible to see on human eyes. And this is some kind of example of such need for imagination, need for graphical presentation of construction of knowledge.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor.
Another question?
I see a question from Adalbert Grote again, or not? Adalbert Grote?
No, it was before.
It was the same. Okay. Okay. So in fact, it was very inspiring, this real-time colloquium with dramatic moments. And I myself, I would just like to ask the musician, but it's too late. All the musicians we have now here with us, I had all the time the feeling that from one hand, the signs Peng presented us. From the other hand, the maps, wonderful maps, they are an invitation to read them like a score. The musicians who have talent for improvisation and talent for reacting to dimension, to proportion, to colors, they have the feeling of music just regarding these signs. I think I was all the time feeling this. I would like to thank you very much. And please, Ioannis, you have
Thank you very much, everybody. Yes, thank you very much, both the speakers for the inspiring discussion. Thank you, each one personally, and of course, President Klaus Mainzer, who always is present with us until the last moment, even throughout all the discussion, and is very supportive. Thank you, and we gave a rendezvous for the next Friday, two weeks later, in our next meeting. Thank you. Take care and be safe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.